Hi, my name is Anna Bolin, and today I will be presenting the Gap Company analysis along with Reagan Marcy, Charlie Scott, and Carly Church. We'll be starting off talking about Gap's strategy. Their main strategy is a best cost strategy. They offer low prices and they offer good quality as well. So they're not too concerned with sacrificing quality in order to beat out the rest of the market by offering a lower price. And on the other hand, they're not making exceptional quality for extremely high prices. They kind of serve a nice middle ground and try to make it to where anyone can afford Gap clothing and in turn get some good quality clothing. They serve men, women, as well as children, so they kind of have something for everyone.
Starting with political factors, Gap must comply with international trade regulations and labor laws. For example, tariffs on imports from countries like China can drive up costs. Additionally, franchising laws in certain countries may limit or slow down Gap's global expansion strategy. Next, the economic landscape. Rising labor and material costs are putting pressure on profit margins. Inflation reduces consumers' purchasing power, which then affects discretionary spending. And because Gap operates internationally, currency fluctuations can impact its bottom line. Moving on to social trends, we're seeing a clear shift towards mobile and online shopping. Consumers, especially Gen Z, are looking for brands that reflect inclusivity, ethical sourcing, and clear values. Gap Inc. has opportunities to connect with these shared principles. In terms of technology, Gap is investing in automation and AI to improve supply chain efficiency. The company is also enhancing mobile apps and e-commerce platforms and using customer data to personalize marketing and improve the shopping experience. Environmental issues are becoming more urgent. Gap is under pressure to use sustainable materials and be more transparent about its supply chain. Climate change also poses logistical risks, and there's a growing demand for brands to reduce their carbon footprint and textile waste. Lastly, for the legal environment, Gap must protect its intellectual property, like brand designs, and stay ahead of data privacy laws. Compliance with labor and environmental regulations across different countries is also a critical priority. Now, let's transition to the SWOT analysis. Starting with the strengths, Gap benefits from a global supply chain and an extensive retail presence. Its portfolio of recognizable brands such as Old Navy, Athleta, Gap, and Banana Republic gives its broad market appeal. But there are some weaknesses too that they struggle with. The company is seeing a declining foot traffic and underperformance in many stores. It also struggles to differentiate its brands and often relies on discounting, which can hurt long-term brand value. Gap also has several opportunities. Their growing demand for sustainable and circular fashion and online shopping continues to grow. One of the strongest areas for expansion is Athleta and the broader activewear market, which is seeing rapid growth. Lastly, threats. Gap faces intense competition from fast fashion giants like Zara and H&M. Economic downturns could weaken consumer spending, and global supply chain disruptions, like those seen during the pandemic, remain an ongoing risk.
Hello, my name is Reagan Marcy, and first I want to take a look at the Porter's Five Forces to better understand the competitive environment that Gap operates in. First, we have threat of new entrants, which is moderate to high. The barriers to entry in the fashion industry have lowered significantly due to e-commerce platforms, so new players like Shein and Boohoo can scale quickly without physical stores. Gap does not benefit from some of the brand recognition, but loyalty is not strong enough to keep new brands from stealing market share. Second, we have bargaining power of suppliers. This is very low. Since Gap sources from a wide network of global suppliers, it gives it flexibility to switch vendors and negotiate costs. However, ethical sourcing practices do narrow their options slightly, but not enough to give suppliers real power. Next, we have our bargaining power of buyers. This is very high due to consumers today have endless options. Price sensitivity is high, switching costs are low, and especially Gen Z isn't loyal to legacy brands such as Gap. If Gap doesn't offer value and relevance, customers will go elsewhere very quickly. Next, we have a threat of substitute. This is moderate due to alternate fashion options like thrift stores, rental stores, and even Amazon basics are gaining ground. Sustainability is driving this shift, and it's something Gen Z deeply cares about. And then next, we have our industry rivalry, which is very high. This is probably the most intense force for Gap. They're battling with fast fashion giants like Zara, H&M, Shein, Boohoo, and other online retailers. There's very little product differentiation, and aggressive markdowns continue to pressure profit margins. Next, we're going to, here's a summary of the Porter's Five Forces. And next, we're going to do a evaluate Gap's internal resources using the VRIN framework: valuable, rare, imitable, and non-sustainable. So is Gap valuable? Yes, Gap has a very strong global operation, recognizable brands, and a well-established supply chain. These are valuable resources that support its core business. Is it rare? Not really. Many of Gap's resources, like its distribution network or retail know-how, are common in the industry. The one that stands out is Athleta, which is showing high growth potential and taps into the wellness and activewear market. Is this imitable? Gap's operation infrastructure can be replicated by competitors. Fast fashion brands have proven that they can scale and operate with similar efficiency. Again, Athleta offers that more differentiation. Is it non-substitutable? No, not entirely, due to consumers easily being able to substitute Gap's products with similar clothing from competitors. Gap's lack of brand distinction weakens its long-term hold on customer preferences. And some of the key takeaways from this is while Gap has valuable assets, most are not rare or difficult to imitate. Athleta is the only exception. It could be leveraged to create a more sustainable competitive advantage.
Hi, my name is Carly Church, and I'm going to be talking about the value chain and the financial analysis of the gap. Firstly, we have the primary activities. These are the activities that are directly with the customers. This is going to include the manufacturing and assembling of the goods. Because Gap is mainly a clothing retailer, that's going to mean that manufacturing and assembling clothes, but it can also include some accessories like socks or purses or anything like that. Also, the distribution of those goods that are manufactured is going to be a very big part because Gap does have a large online retailing space. They also have a very much larger physical retail space. And so those kind of direct interactions with customers is going to also be part of the primary activities. Secondly, we have supporting activities. Those are going to be the things that support those in the primary activity roles. That's going to be the purchasing of the raw materials that are eventually manufactured, the human resources to support those in the primary activity roles, and of course, advertising just to get more foot traffic in those retail stores and to up those revenues. There are four categories, but I picked three categories of these financial analysis ratios. And I also picked just a couple of ratios from each category to talk about. All of these are according to the 2023 financial statements. The gross profit margin is 38.79%, which for the retail industry is good. It's average, which is always great in business. The operating profit margin is 64.97%, which again, for the Gap and for the retailing business is absolutely great. Not above, not below. It's right where you want to be. The earnings per share, though, is 1.36 or $1.36. per share, which would be okay for a small to medium public company, but for Gap with as much name recognition as they have, it does tend to waver the stockholder a little bit. Next, I'm going to talk about liquidity ratios. The biggest one is going to be the current ratio with 1.42. Essentially, this shows how quickly Gap can convert their assets if they needed to, if there was an economic downturn or recession. This is a good ratio, but it's always great to lean more into the 2 or higher rather than 1, which Gap seems to be doing here. The working capital is about 1.3 billion. Again, this is the resources that Gap has to pay off those debts if they needed to. This could also go into expanding some of their resources. Lastly, I'm going to talk about leverage ratios. The debt to assets ratio is 0.77 to 1. And essentially, this ratio indicates whether a company is using their liabilities in an effective way. Because this ratio is less than 1, it does indicate that Gap is efficiently using their debts. But if we look to the debt to equity ratio, it's actually about 3 times what it should be. Which means that the Gap has a lot of debt, but they are using it very efficiently. And if something were to happen, they could pay off those debts in a good amount of time.
So throughout our research for this project, our 2 main strategic concerns became Gap's lack of brand identity and differentiation, and also their lack of shift to e-commerce. So starting off with the lack of brand identity, there are a couple of brands that do exactly what Gap does, but they have a much stronger brand loyalty because they know how to target their audience. These brands are Old Navy and American Eagle, who do exactly what Gap does, which is offering high quality for a more affordable price. American Eagle and Old Navy both use influencer marketing and very strategic social media campaigns in order to reach their target market. They really make a push about what their values are, and this is something that Gap has just really not picked up on yet. And then as far as a shift to e-commerce goes, e-commerce has been very prominent within the industry, especially now. And Gap is struggling in terms of retail stores. A lot of their stores are not performing well, and this is kind of a liability for them. So they haven't really taken full advantage of the e-commerce world. Our first recommendation for Gap is very similar to what I was talking about in the previous side. We think that they should revitalize their brand identity in order to be able to reach Generation Z. They've really been struggling with this because even though they do market stuff for all ages, they've really struggled to reach Generation Z and even some of the younger millennials. In order to do this, we think that they should start using influencer marketing. This marketing tactic is way cheaper than your typical commercial because of high production prices, the price it takes to get a commercial on the TV. And in addition, influencer marketing tends to be more successful because it feels way more organic. If someone from Generation Z sees their favorite influencer wearing something from Gap and talking about how much they've loved it, they're going to buy it over a commercial that they see on TV in passing. Our second recommendation is that they really put their all into e-commerce and omni-channel innovation. So obviously their retail stores have been struggling like we've seen throughout the presentation. And so we think unfortunately they should close some of those stores that are not performing well and start to invest in omni-channel innovation in the ones that remain open. So this could include curbside pickup, in-store pickup, anything that adds convenience for shoppers, for those who might be too busy to go in a store and actually try on stuff and actually shop around. This could be a really good way to get those people to come
For the
shop.
third recommendation, Gap could leverage Athleta as a strategic growth vehicle. Athleta stands out as a sustainable competitive advantage within Gap's portfolio, and Gap can expand on that momentum by opening more standalone Athleta stores in health-focused, high-traffic communities. They could broaden the product line to include wellness and lifestyle items such as supplements or home fitness gear. And they could use Athleta's mission-driven branding as a blueprint to reposition Gap's other labels with clearer identities. For the fourth recommendation, Gap could invest in circular fashion and sustainability initiatives. Consumers and competitors are demanding more circular fashion, And Gap could launch programs like Gap Renew, where customers can recycle or resell gently used clothing. They could switch to eco-friendly fabrics and ensure transparent, traceable supply chains. And they could also earn and promote third-party sustainability certifications to build trust and differentiate the brand in a crowded market.
I'm going to be talking about number 5, which is rationalize the store footprint. Essentially, as big as the face-to-face physical stores are for the Gap, they are starting to deteriorate in favor of online storefronts. So the best thing that Gap can do is to rationalize why they are physical, and if not, head to online, close the stores that are not doing so good. And this could actually lead into number 6, which is to improve the financial health and improve debt of the Gap. This could be increasing capital, going into different sections of the market to increase capital, essentially get the debt down, or at least close the gap from debt to assets. In case there is an economic downturn, there is not as much risk that Gap is facing.
Recommendations. So number 7 is deepen loyalty and personalization. I believe that Gap can do this and revamp loyalty programs by adding tiered rewards and personalized perks for customers. They can also use customer data for predictive modeling and personalization recommendations. And then 3, they can offer exclusive drops or early access to all members of their loyalty program. For number 8, I believe that Gap needs to heavily invest in Gen Z focused sub-branding or capsule collections. Gen Z doesn't really resonate with Gap's legacy image and seeks unique, expressive, and value-driven fashion. So with that being said, Gap can launch a limited edition sub-brand or recurring capsule drops like Gap Next Gen or Gap Studio, focused on bold, trend-forward designs, and also collaborate with Gen Z creators or fashion influencers. They need to have sustainability as well as gender inclusivity, and can use TikTok and Instagram Reels to preview the market collections. And then finally, I think the way Gap can integrate this is to create a drop culture experience with exclusivity to drive urgency and brand engagement. In summary, Gap operates in a highly competitive and rapidly evolving retail landscape. Our analysis shows that while Gap has strong financial fundamentals and it recognizes brands, it struggles with differentiation, brand identity, and maintaining consumer loyalty, especially with Gen Z. To stay competitive, Gap should focus on revitalizing its brand through clearer messaging and more personalized customer experiences. By leveraging high potential brands like Athleta and expanding into sustainable fashion initiatives and rationalizing its retail footprint will be key to long-term growth. Most importantly, accelerating e-commerce and AI-driven innovation can help Gap remain relevant in a digital-first world.